Egyptian soldiers. We just fired one round off, and they threw their weapons down and raised their hands, and we marched them out.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
it was crazy. They weren't equipped. The Egyptian army back then, and their military was a joke. They were being equipped by I believe by the Soviets, and all of their weaponry was Soviet, and we captured all their weapons. And most of this was east, where I was east of the Suez Canal. And so at night we were soldiers. In the daytime, we were farmers. We were irrigating the desert. So it was a total transition for me. I loved it. And little by little, this gal and I fell in love. We didn't know each other very well, but we found out about each other real quick in battle. You can find out about somebody very quick in battle. And then during the day, we were just irrigating the desert. And this went on.
Where did you sleep? When did you sleep?
We slept when we could. We're all young. We slept when we could. What we did is we had our own kibbutz. A kibbutz is we developed it. Actually, when I got there, they had that kibbutz. They had already built it. And it was interesting because they had these huts, and then they had cots in the huts, and they had dug big trenches alongside each cot, because at night the Egyptians would fire mortars into the kibbutz, and mortars make a sound, you hear it coming, and you only have a few splits or a second, or a few split seconds. You got to roll out of that cot and get into that, lay down in that trench, so that if it hits near you, it's not going to kill you. And so that happened most every night. And we didn't fight every night. Once we rounded up that 600, there was nobody to fight in our area or anywhere. And she and I guess it wasn't that long a period, but it was one of the most beautiful weeks or months of my life. The two of us, it was like we were born for each other, to meet each other. And so my plan was to stay in Israel and not go back to Germany and spend the rest of my life with her. And then the English and French left, and Eisenhower had decided that he wanted and he demanded that Israel be pulled out and come back out of Egypt. Now Israel gained a lot of things that it didn't have. It gained territory. It gained lots of advantages even after it pulled out, which it increased in the '67 war, but that was '56. And the war was over. But we were celebrating that night. We had a big party at the kibbutz, and we were dancing, the horror, and everything. We were drinking cognac. And nobody bothered to inform the Egyptian mortar brigade. But we didn't know that. And so this was the first time we were all a little tipsy. Now, of course, tipsy to me meant a drink and a half. Tipsy to her meant God knows how many. It's a healthy girl. She could drink a lot of booze.
And what nationality was she?
Israeli.
Israeli, okay.
Born in a Sabra girl, born and raised in Israel.
Okay.
And here I was practically out of it, because I can't drink. And we were in the car together. And even in my stupor, I hear the mortars. And the first one landed outside our hut. The next thing I know, she's grabbing me, pushing me into the trench. And just as she pushed me into the trench, a mortar hit the hut. And she fell down on top of me. And I'm grabbing and holding on to her. But she didn't quite make it. And I was grabbing and holding on to a dead human being. She saved my life before she saved her own. Well, that was the last combat I saw. This was, I guess it was November of... No, I was there a while. It must have been early 1957, because Israel stayed quite a bit longer than France and Germany. And I was like a zombie. I lost my world. I lost my great first love. I didn't say first, it was my great love. And I so wished that it was me that pushed her into the trench and that I was gone. Well, just about that time, we were in the height of the Cold War, so it was 1956-57, so it would have been a horrible thing, public relations-wise, if the world had found out that X amount of American GIs deserted the American army and went down to fight the Israeli army, in the Israeli army, but not that where they went, just that they deserted the American army in Europe, in Germany. So everything in those days was the Cold War. Everything was Soviets, Americans, Soviets, Americans. And so, and which could get the advantage in not only in military, but in public relations. So Eisenhower quietly sent a directive down that any of us that could get back by a certain date would be pardoned. Now this is not known, because they couldn't say anything about it. They couldn't talk about it. They couldn't. It was a presidential directive, because nobody knew we had done it. Well, this happened a few days before she died. And she and I looked at each other and had a big, long conversation as to whether I should go back, finish out my army term, and then come back to her in Israel. And I was dead set about not coming back and staying in Israel, staying in the Israeli army, and raising a family with her. Well, when she died, of course, that solidified my decision. And I made it back to base. I was a zombie. I made it back to base on time. I don't remember how. Everything from that point on was a fog in my mind. All I could think about was her. And a few months later, I was sent back stateside. And then I was honorably discharged. And it took me a long, long, long time to get over her. And I'm really not over her time heals a lot of that, and cures a lot of that. And I went back to Youth Guild, and I set my mind onto the business, and that was the end of my military experience, or harrowing experiences, until 1967, when I went to Africa with my family. I did have an harrowing experience on one of my many fishing tournaments. I was down in, Costa Rica. And I'm trying to remember, below us was Panama, and above us was, was it Batista? I can't remember the country right offhand. But they were an armed insurgent country. What was it? Slipped my mind. We're out fishing, and we're out about 6 miles, 7 miles. And evidently we somehow crossed into their water space. Out of northern Costa Rica. What the hell's the name of the country? It's right on the tip of my tongue. And all of a sudden we see these 3 speedboats coming towards us. There were a bunch of guys and some girls fishing. And the speedboats board us. It's their patrols, military patrols, naval patrol, whatever it was. And they called the spies and said we were there to spy on their country. They took all of our fishing equipment, undergun, our fishing equipment, our watches, our jewelry, our money, our wallets, and whatever else they could find. And left us, took our gasoline, our fuel, the batteries, any of our electronic equipment, and left us floating. And we were thankful that they left us floating, because they could have killed us just as easy. What the hell's the name of the country right above? It had to do with the same country as the Contra, Iran-Contra.
Oh, you're gonna have to come up with this, I'm geographically challenged.
Oh, I'm not. I'm age challenged. Terrible. I know the country like yes, like. And sure enough, we finally some other fishing boats came and towed us back in.
So why did they let you go? Because they determined that you weren't spies?
They knew we weren't spies. They knew there was this big fishing tournament. It was a big deal in Central America.
Oh,
it was a
fishing tournament?
Fishing tournament.
So what was their purpose of
because
just
they
steal
wanted
your
to
stuff?
steal our stuff.
Oh.
They figured rich Americans, rich Europeans, rich South Africans, we're all Australians. We're all on these boats. Well, they did just that, and we couldn't say boo. We didn't. First of all, we didn't have a weapon. Second of all, we hadn't. We'd been stupid to use them. And third of all, it was obvious. We just prayed they didn't shoot us.
Yeah.
And dump us over the side and take the boat. So that was an experience I had out at sea. What the hell was the name of that country?
There's a globe over there in that other room. You want to
Well,
pause it?
I'll come back and during one of my other sessions I'll tell you the name of the country. But everybody that he sees this knows what country it is. It's
Yeah.
All right. And so that was my experience in Hungary, which could be a whole segment, and then Israel, trip back, I flew over to Europe in the Army, but I came back by ship. And those ships were just terrible. Troop ships, old converted Liberty ships. I never left the deck. Everybody on the boat, we ran into a nor'easter, everybody on the boat was sick. But I don't get seasick. I'm a fisherman, I'm not fishing. But I just laid there, and they tried to get me down below. They finally had to bring food up to me. It was a 10-day trip. Can you imagine 10 days? Those ships were so slow. But I remember coming in to New York Harbor. 10 days at sea. I'm out the whole time on the deck. The whole time, even doing my business, I'm out on the deck. And suddenly, we're passing the Statue of Liberty. And everybody's rushing up to the side. They want to see the statue. And then we come into the port. Came up the Hudson. I think it was the Hudson. Yeah. And we get into this dock, and as the boat is going this way, the ship is going this way, I'm standing by the rail, just staring. I was still in shock. And I'm just staring. And faces are going by on the dock, as the ship is slowly coming in, and then they're tying up, and suddenly, as the faces are coming by me like this, actually I'm going by the faces, they're standing still, suddenly there's my mom and dad.
Wow.
Right in front of me. I'm looking down on them.
They're just hoping you're on that.
Yeah, well, you see, the upper layer of the ship was the married couples, the guys that picked up girls in Germany and brought them back as their wives. And the lower level were, were just guys. So my parents weren't looking at me, they were looking at the upper level. They were sure I was coming back with some German girl.
Ah.
And they just kept looking, and then I just smiled, I saw them, and it brought reality back. Right? And here I am, back to the woman that when I went in the Army asked me if when it rains am I wearing my rubbers. I'll never forget that. She went in basic training, she went up to my sergeant and said to him, and she handed him the rubbers. And she said, please, remember to tell him to wear these.
When it's raining.
I never lived that down. That sergeant, oh my God, and then all the guys in my platoon, they used to call me, what do they call me, rubber something.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was my mom. And then so, of course, it took a while to get off the boat, but then I got off the ship, I had my duffel bag, and I said to myself, as between the time I saw them and the time I was walking down the gangplank, I never wanted to know anything about this, ever.
About your loss?
And about Israel, about Hungary, about Korea. I held Korea, they never knew about Korea all those years when I went to college. So they never did. I never told them any of those experiences. Because my mother was a wonderful, wonderful lady that I just never wanted to get her involved in any of this. That she lived a life that was so different. My dad, like your mother, lived a life so different. He cared for everything. He took care of her.
So you didn't want your mother to worry or have any kind of burden with these stories?
No, I never wanted her. No, my sister never knew any of this. What kills me though is now, as I look back on it, about, in Germany, at the end, in Mainz, I was in a poker game in one of the catacombs. You see, all of Mainz was bombed out. I told you yesterday, Wiesbaden was right across the Rhine from Mainz. Wiesbaden was the only city in Germany that was never bombed. And it was intact with all of its old buildings and history. And why? Because the American Air Force knew that Wiesbaden was going to be their city and their home base and their home field. So they never bombed it. Now Mainz, which was right across the river, was level. And so all of the life that existed underground. And so above us was nothing but rubble. But
So when you mean underground, you're talking tunnels.
tunnels, whole nightclubs.
Really?
Really? I mean, jazz was the big thing in those days. Progressive jazz. And one of my real buddies in Germany was McKinley Brinkley. We used to call him Brink, Black Boy. He was the best tenor saxophone player outside of Chet Baker that you ever heard in your life. And when Kenny, that's what I call him Kenny, when Kenny would get up and do his gigs with other kids, the guys that were really good musicians, I mean, and the German beer, it was thriving life, social life underneath the ground.
That is crazy.
Well,
How did you find it?
oh, you
what
can't
did
not
look
find
like?
it. When I got to Germany, all the guys were telling me, come on, and they dragged me out, and we go in these tunnels, blah, 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 and suddenly we're in this nightclub down under there, all lit up with a crystal thing going around, and women, God, you have no idea. I told you this. There must have been 20 women to every man, because the men were all killed in the war, or maimed, or injured, or disabled. And there were 200,000 American GIs in Germany. And I don't know how many million women trying to get their attention.
Hoping
Two
that-
reasons. One, for romantic reasons. And two, maybe that if they like them and they can fall in love with them, they'll take them back to the United States. They had to get out of Germany. Germany was nothing but a bombed out mess. There was nothing in Germany but ruins of war, except underground.
So it was underground because it wouldn't get bombed out?
No,
or
no,
so
no, no,
wouldn't
no.
be
It
found
happened
out?
after the war. After the war.
Yeah.
They couldn't have gaiety and youth because there was nothing to have gaiety in. Everything was bombed out.
Uh-huh.
So they built it all underground. They went into basements and cellars and tunnels and sewers, and they built everything underground.
Wasn't it dangerous?
No.
How do you breathe?
Oh my God, they had all kind of ventilation systems in there. Are you
Wow.
kidding?
That's crazy.
I remember, and so you had the very first time the night I got there, the guys dragged me into this thing and they put a glass of German beer in front of me, and I said, I don't drink beer. He said, well, you're going to try this one. And I drank that one glass of German beer, and I don't remember anything the rest of the night. I mean, it is so much stronger
Yeah.
than Budweiser or American beer. I mean, it's just knocks you on your ass. And I couldn't get over it. See, back in the 50s, when I got there in 55, I guess early 55, the United States was very puritanical in its social life. A lot of the women weren't going to sleep with the men until they were married. The guy had a hard time getting a woman to have any kind of sex with him at all. Women were very different back then than they are today, even here. But you go to Germany, my God, it was a different world. You'd think nothing, and I had to get used to this because I couldn't believe it. But you'd think nothing of having a whole group of women in the building with me. Each one trying to outdo the other so that maybe she would be your girlfriend.
Wow.
And it got on, that went on for a while and it got old. And that's when I got a hold of this, I met this one girl in Germany. This was before I was in Israel. I met this one girl in Germany that was different than the others. She didn't go to those places. I met her in a library where I went to listen to classical music, and then she was listening to classical music. Valtrot, her name was Valtrot Ebel. And she was a lovely lady. She was about my age. And we became very friendly and finally became lovers. And she's the one that, see, I used to go to Wiesbaden with her. Because Wiesbaden, as I said, wasn't bombed out. And they had the opera house and the ballet. And we would go to all those things together. And we'd sit in her apartment and listen to classical music that we loved together. And that went on for a while. When I came back from Israel, she knew somehow knew what had happened. Maybe I told her, I don't remember. But she was so wonderful to me for the rest of the time that I was in Germany.
So you went from Israel back to Germany before you went back to the United States?
Yes. I told you I went back to my base,
Oh, I see.
so I wouldn't be AWOL.
Oh, okay. I
Eisenhower-
thought you had to get
Eisenhower.
back to America,
No.
but no, you had to get back to your
I had
German
to get back to
base.
Germany,
Okay.
back to our base of operations, so, and our
Mhm.
unit,
Uh,
so that by a certain date.
right, okay.
So between that time and the time that I left, and I told you this story just recently. When I was ready to leave, she tried to commit suicide. And 2 nights before I was to leave,
And why do you think that?
because she was in love, didn't want to lose me. She told me why.
And she wanted you to take her with you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go with her. I mean, I didn't.
Everyone else was getting married. Some of them were getting
A
married.
lot of the guys would marry the girls or bring them home, yeah.
And she wanted to get married.
Not really, not really. She didn't want me to leave. She
Mm.
loved Germany. She loved her family. She didn't want me to take her back to the United States. She wanted me to stay there with her.
Ah,
But she told me without me there, the world was nothing to her. Well, I didn't realize she tried to commit suicide, but she took some pills, sleeping pills. And early in the morning, there she is in a stupor, and I see the pills lying by the side of the bed. So I picked her up and I ran her, carried her outside, and there was this, was it winter? No, it wasn't winter. It was raining, pouring. And this Volkswagen Beetle stops. And he talks to me in German, and I answered him in English, because I did speak German at that time, but I answered it in English, and I said, I've got to get her to a hospital right away. And so we got her into the car, and we drove to the hospital. And when I got her inside the hospital, there was this young doctor who was an emergency room doctor. He was on duty, and he took her in, and he came out to me afterwards and he said, she'll be okay. We pumped her stomach, and I saw, so he said, do you want to go in and see her? And I said, no. And I talked to the doctor for a while, and I said, would you please take care of her? I said, for me to go see her will just make it worse. And he looked at me and he said, she's a lovely girl. I said, I know. Would you please take care of her? P.S. That was 53 years ago. A couple of months ago, I get a telephone call from Germany. From Valtrop Westmuller or something like that. He ended up marrying her.
no way.
They ended up having 3 wonderful boys. one of which is in business in Germany, manufacturing all of the transit buses that's used in Germany, and he's exporting them all over Europe. And she's still into classical music. And she called me, and I recognized the voice instantly. She hadn't spoken English in years and years and years. I couldn't believe it, how she tracked me down. Online, probably. And we talked for a while. And then she sent me pictures of her kids and her dog, and her husband, who I spoke to, and who told me that I was an intricate part of her life.
Wow.
And I have all those pictures. I've shown them to Sandy. And suddenly I get a phone call about 2 months ago that she's deathly ill from her husband. And would you please call her at the hospital? He thinks that would pick up her spirits. So he gave me the number, and I called her room. She answered, and she very weakly in German, and I said, Val, and she recognized my voice. And we chatted for quite a while. And she said, I can't tell you what's wrong with me because I don't have the strength, but he's calling back my husband, and he'll tell you everything. And she said, I'm so glad you called. And after that, the husband called me a couple of weeks later and told me that she was much better. She had had surgery, and that she's going to be coming home today, and he thanked me for calling her. And that was the last I heard of her.
Wow.
Now this is 1957 was the last time I saw her. Okay?
So she had called you before she got ill.
Oh yeah.
They tracked you down.
She
How
tracked
long
me
ago?
well, oh God, I forget now. Not that long ago.
Okay.
Less than a year probably.
All right. And then she ends up getting ill, and
And she wanted, she thought she was going to die, and so did he. Okay?
wow.
And that's why he called me and said that she wants to talk to you.
And why do you think he said that you were an integral part of
I don't
her
know why.
life?
Because I guess she thought that her life was coming to an end.
She wanted to end her life.
And well, no, he
No,
thought.
I mean back when
Back
you were.
then. Oh yeah. And
So
he
then
saved
you
her.
you saved her by bringing her to him, and
Yeah.
somehow.
It's a big vicious circle. But she's loved me all these years. And I think of her sometimes, but wonderful thoughts. I think of our music and our dancing and our life. I wasn't in love with her. I was in love with the girl that was killed in my arms in Israel. I think I might have started to fall in love with her before I went to Hungary and Israel. Because I knew her before that.
Oh, you
In
did.
Germany, sure. But afterwards, and she could tell the difference. She knew right away. I wasn't the same Alan.
Do you think that she ever loved her husband? Do you
Yes,
think her
very
husband?
much.
She does.
Oh, she told me so.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful man.
She loves him, and you're not. I mean, she loved you, but
Yeah, but I'm from her youth. But just her calling me made it, and me calling her in the hospital, made her complete. It was a full circle. Because she thought she was going to die in the hospital.
yeah.
And so she had now gone full circle in her life.
Wow.
And that was the last time I spoke to her. Her email address has been discontinued, so I can't email her anymore.
Do you think she's alive?
Oh yeah, I think she's alive. I hope she is. If she weren't, I'm sure the So, I think that's enough for today.
Yeah, that was good. I want to make sure you tape the part about Dalai Lama though. You told
I'll
me the
tape
best story
that.
yesterday.
Yeah,
After you stop the flipping recorder, we could be done.
well, I'll get to that story, because I like to bounce back and forth.
Yeah, 'cause that's
And
a phenomenal
After
story.
this, let's see, what else is there in my life? Well, Africa.
Well, Africa, yeah.
That's really exciting.
And who was Idi Amin? You had a
Yeah.
bunch of those.
I have a bunch of people I was saying, well, I gotta tell the story from the beginning, so
Yeah.
you see how I met these world leaders.
Right.
Haile Selassie from Ethiopia,
Mhm.
and Idi Amin from Uganda, and Mobutu from the Congo. That's the jail I was in. And Victor, who had me followed the whole time. It's a long story. I'm not going to tell it now,
Okay.
but I will tell it.
Okay.
And it was during my first marriage with Bess,
Yes.
and it occurred in 1960.